Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You are watching KUHS The Stream on Melody Drive, and this is the Weekend Boost. I'm your host, Paul Lane, the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. And guys, we sure appreciate you being with us this morning, and I believe you're going to be very excited about what we have to talk about today. I have a guest who is stellar. We have some very prolific authors that come on the show, as you know. But every once in a while you have an author who just is a real world-changing author, and today we're going to be gifted with that. And before we get started, I want to just talk about a couple of books that I think are of great interest and you should read. The first one, Sharon Rose Hayward is a personal friend of mine, and she wrote this book, Winning at Work. And I've told you I've been recommending it, and you guys, if you're in a job, looking for a job, want to improve your job or your place at your job, this book is a fantastic tool, and I guarantee you will get benefit from it. A book that I've never had the author of, but a book that has been really influential for me. Maurice Buck wrote this book. Richard Maurice Buck wrote Cosmic Consciousness, and more and more people are becoming conscious. And when I talk about consciousness, I talk about really in relation to infinity. I'm reading a book by a shaman right now, and Alberto Villalobos, and he talks about infinity in a way that you never thought about. Another one that's never been on my show is Dr. Joe Dispenza, a book that literally changed my life. Becoming Supernatural. I tell you what, if you talking about mental health today, we're going to be talking about, but this book talks about physical healing, and much like today's book does. Dr. Joe Dispenza he's just an amazing author, and just wanted to talk about that book just briefly. And if you're looking for a fantastic read, easy to go with, it's also on audio. Today's guest is, as I said, a prolific author, someone who's been involved in herbalism for over 50 years, someone who's written many books, over 10 books. Someone who's spoken worldwide, and when you get someone of this caliber, you really want to appreciate and get the most out of your time with them. And this morning I have the author of Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health, Holistic Methods and Techniques for a Happy, Healthy Mind. Brigitte Mars, thank you so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure and honor, Paul. Thank you so much.
I have to thank Barb Crowley for referring you to me, and also a very dear personal friend of my wife and mine. And so I just am so humbled and grateful that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to spend an hour with us. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. This book had to take quite a long time to write.
It did, and this is actually a reprint because I wrote the book several years ago, and the publishers gave it a terrible name. They called it The Home Reference to Holistic Health and Healing, which is so generic. So this is a book about mental health, not about colds and flus. This is about anxiety and depression and grief and memory loss.
Yeah.
Yes, and stroke recovery and head injury. So there's not that many books like that. And we realize already, this is very popular, that the mental body affects the physical body. We know that if we're stressed out, it could impair our immune system, our sleep ability. But this book takes a look at how the physical body is going to affect the mental body.
Yes.
So overeating sugar and fried foods and chips and animals that are raised with horrible lifestyle practices, that can affect our mental health. Liver stagnation, eating things we're allergic to, it's going to affect us. And I don't think that there's enough focus on that. So I felt there was a big need to write this book.
Yes. I love how you refer throughout the book to Chinese medicine. And you named so many herbs that I never ever heard of, and it was like, oh man, get my notebook out. I have so much highlighting in that I wore a highlighter out reading your book.
I'm a big highlighter too.
Yeah.
And highlighting is the really important thing to do because the color yellow is the cerebral stimulus. And again, I suggest that when people read this book, they read it with a highlighter And then, you, rather than like, I have to read the book, or where's that like paragraph that was so important that I want
Yes.
to check out, you go back and you look at what you've highlighted, and maybe those are things you want to, oh, I'm so honored,
Yes.
things you want to research further, or maybe you want to put those on your list to see if they have it at the herb store or natural food store. So I'm a big highlighter, absolutely, and I think that's how you do that. And some people might not need the entire book.
Mm-hmm.
If you not need to read about Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, although it's just nice to realize that it's all connected.
Yes.
And there are things we can do. And you mentioned Chinese medicine, and yes, Chinese medicine is certainly included in here, because in Asian medicine, because I want to be more all-encompassing, they do use herbs, diet, acupuncture for treating the mental body as well as the physical body,
Yes.
because they realize it's all connected. But I do have a big focus on what are the herbs that are growing here in North America, and most of the herbs are going to be things you can find. You don't have to wait for a slow boat from China to bring them to you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got plenty of herbs right here that can help, that are available, and most natural food stores and herb shops are going to carry what's listed on there.
Yes. I've been really, a little before I started reading your book, I started exploring the apothecaries in the city of Denver. And we have a great selection of places where you can go. I mean, I was looking for burdock root. I think it was burdock root I was looking for, and I mean, I went to 3 different apothecaries, and I finally went and found one on East Colfax and Race, and it was like, man, just keep looking and you'll find what you need, and I was so impressed with how detailed the herbs can be. I mean, it was like when I'm reading your book, there are herbs for fear of snakes, there are herbs for fear of dogs, there's fear, it was so incredibly minute how much detail and how effective herbs can be for specific needs.
Yes, and so also part of the book is homeopathic remedies.
Yes.
So a lot of phobias listed were more homeopathic remedies, and they might be made out of plants, but they might also be made out of minerals or strange things like sponge or rocks or something like that.
Yes.
So yes, homeopathy, essential oils, vitamin supplements, food, all of that is part of it, because in natural medicine we don't want to just band-aid things. We don't want to just take an herb and all your problems will go away. We want to look at what we can do to get to the root of the problem.
Yes.
So very often, I think that there's a lot of people that are perhaps on medication or even in mental hospitals that might be eating things they're allergic to,
Mm-hmm.
that's causing brain inflammation. They might have heavy metal toxicity. I don't think that everybody realizes, Paul, that even some of the synthetic chemicals that people put on their body, like perfumes and aftershave and sunscreen and hairspray,
Yes.
that you're breathing that all day long. It's also going into your bloodstream.
The biggest organ in our body.
And it's causing a disruption. It could be affecting your hormones and your moods. So we talk about all of that, and even though I do mention, lots of supplements, things like, vitamin B12, for example, or magnesium, in the very back of Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health, you might say, well, what are some foods that are naturally high in magnesium or calcium or omega-3 fatty acids? So if taking pills is not your style, you might just say, I need to put that on my grocery list and try to eat those foods more. So there's a lot of options for people. And, a whole nother thing that I love to recommend is essential oils.
Yes.
So we have so many people that suffer from panic attacks. So right now, when I do shows, I like to smell rosemary essential oil, and it goes right to your brain. So if I'm like, wanting to be chill and tap into my memory, Shakespeare said there's rosemary for remembrance.
Oh.
Pray thee remember. And so a simple thing like having a bottle of lavender essential oil in your purse or backpack or desk, if you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, you take 5 deep inhalations on each nostril.
Yes.
And it goes right to your brain, and it can affect your states of consciousness, because there's so many people that are on anti-anxiety medicines, And I don't know if enough doctors are saying, maybe you want to cut back on the coffee or the sugar or pay attention to your blood sugar levels. So this book is not about, us and them. I certainly appreciate good doctors that are out there, but there's a lot of tools that we can do and that health practitioners can recommend that are simple lifestyle techniques that could help you decrease your medication or even find more natural, less addicting, less harmful to your liver and your kidney type of remedies. And, I think we've given the power of our health over to someone else. Doctor, fix me. And it might be that there's some simple techniques that you could do, like, choosing certain colors that you wear, eating certain foods, eliminating other foods, drinking herbal teas that might help you so that you can decrease the medicine. Because we don't want people just to stop doing their medicine.
Exactly.
We want that if they're using medicine that's saving their lives or helping them, but in the meantime, be increasing your tool belt. So if you do choose to go off of them for whatever reason, maybe you want to have a baby, or maybe it's been, a few years, or maybe you are getting older and these things aren't, so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you do transition, you know about healthier eating, you know about some herbal teas, you know about colors or feng shui techniques or essential oils that you might use. So this is a book all about empowerment so that you can be your primary healthcare person, and
Yes.
everything else is secondary and tertiary.
That makes so much sense. I'm firmly and like you, I'm not here to bash the AMA, but I do have some particular opinions about it. For the synthesized drugs are very concerning to me, and I'm more of a natural believer. I guess I stumbled on a book. It was called When Healing Becomes a Crime. Kenny Asherbell.
That was a movie too.
Yes.
About Dr. Hoxie.
Yes, Harry Hoxie. Yes. And so I got some real, I guess you could call them prejudices about allopathic medicine, and so I've really leaned more towards natural or herbal remedies, and so it's just perfect for for someone who's really looking for some other way to be well.
And you want to remember that, in the year 1900, about 80% of all pharmaceuticals were made from plants.
Yes.
So it's not like we're reinventing anything. We're just tapping into this ancient wisdom. And in 1917, the AMA, funded greatly by the Rockefeller Foundation, sent one man around the country, Mr. Flexner, to make a deal with the medical schools in this country. And the deal was, if you will only teach the new medicine,
Yep.
you'll get funding for your school. But if you persist in teaching the old-fashioned folk remedies from the old world, no funding for you. And so we see that herbal medicine pretty much disappeared until there was this renaissance. I want to say that there were people in the 30s and 40s and 50s, Jack LaLanne and Lee Lord Cordell and even Dr. Bronner, who was a champion, speaking about natural remedies. But we do know that the Back to the Land movement of the 60s, the hippie movement, natural foods, organic food, it also was sort of a rebirth of let's explore natural medicines as well. And so little natural food stores started opening up around the country because people are saying, are these pesticides good for us if you have to wear a hazmat suit to spray them?
And you can't walk in that field for 3 days after,
to be eating them. So again, so it's not us and them, but I feel that the best medicine is going to come when we put our heads and hearts together and look at some of the causes for mental illness, because people really suffer. And depression, I've been saying for years, wherever two or more are gathered, one is probably on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medicines. And rather than thinking that the only thing we can do is take a drug, there might be a lot that we can do as individuals to get to the source of it. And it could be something, what I love about this, Paul, is that when we support natural medicine, we're also supporting the green fields and the forest and supporting indigenous people that are growing the lavender or the yerba mate or the, whatever the plant is, the valerian. So if we look at some of the European pharmacies, the herbal medicines never went away. So if you go to a drugstore in, say, Switzerland or France, Germany, you're going to see that there's pharmaceuticals, and then there's also the herbs, and you really get to pick what's best for you.
Wow.
And of course, I would suggest that people try the natural medicine first, just because it's gentler. And when people say to me, but natural medicine hasn't been researched, I want to remind them, I am partnering with remedies that have been used very often by millions of people for thousands of years.
Yes, yes.
And I see a lot of drugs like new, and then they get recalled. I work part-time in a pharmacy. It used to be Pharmaca, and now I work at Alive and Well, which is it's opening Monday actually, and it's very much like the old European model of drugs, but there's also natural remedies. There's also herbs and homeopathy and herbal teas and supplements. And so, I mean, medicine should be all-encompassing, not limiting. And, you know, I do think that even it kind of even goes back, the witch burnings of between the 1400s and the 1700s.
Yes.
Very often targets were practitioners of herbalism and midwifery, which was seen as a threat to what modern medicine was in that time, mercury and bleeding and, amputations that maybe could have been done differently.
Yes, yes. You know, I love where I mean, there's so many times where you've injected color into therapies. And I thought, you know, we talked about the first time we spoke, and you mentioned that it really inspired me, because I remember when my first daughter was born, I heard about yellow being very good for your, you know, neurotransmitters, and I painted that room bright yellow. And I mean, she was so responsive as a child, and she, you know, she had real verbal skills, and she had motor skills, and it was like, wow, I really believe this. And so when you know, brought that forward, it just, it was really inspirational for me. I wore my Easter egg shirt today. But yeah, it was so cool to know about these colors and how they can affect your mood and your mental state. And, you know, the other thing I was really, I think, excited about was you talked about schizophrenia and bipolar disorder in a way that I think it gives hope, because there's such a broad spectrum of remedies and ideas. And so, yeah, that was just a cool part of the book.
And so the color thing, you know, a lot of people, they just choose to, like, you know, dress in gray and black. And, you know, I'm wearing black today because it's Saturn Day, so I wear black, but it's got, like, red roses on it. But color can affect our consciousness. And so if I'm really stressed, I might choose to wear something blue. If I need to be really motivated, red is a highly motivating color. And I use this with my kids when they were growing up. You know, like you said, yellow. Yellow might be a good color to wear when you've got, like, the spelling test or something. And if you're really stressed out about, you know, something, then maybe you pick a color, blue. And so just like it's a good idea to eat a wide variety of colors, I think it's also a good idea to know that color is energy. If you think it doesn't matter, know that Madison Avenue is always thinking about what color should we use to advertise our product or design our product so that people will buy our window cleaner or our chocolate bar, because color is a form of energy. So
yes.
I find that to be really interesting. And so if it, given to my own devices, I probably would just wear purple every day, but I think it's really good to mix it up and not overdo one color. And you know, just know blue is tranquilizing, red is energizing, yellow is mentally stimulating. Even overdoing white, you know, it gets dirty. You can have a lot of laundry. So, but tomorrow's Sunday, so maybe I'll wear white on Sunday. Or maybe because it's Easter, I'll wear an Easter egg color.
Yes.
I like to call it Easter.
Yes. That's another show. Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, that this time of year, this equinox, I guess. So
very interesting. I've been contemplating that a lot.
Yeah. You know, I was so impressed that you did include Parkinson's disease in this, and, you know, and multiple sclerosis, and it's like, people who see these illnesses, I guess, from a perspective of a patient, probably feel very hopeless, feel very almost cornered in, you know, the solution or the hope for a cure or relief is almost nil. It's all, you know, drugs. And so when someone sees this, they really get I think hope.
Well, I've worked a lot with MS because there is a lot of it along the 40th parallel, which Boulder, Colorado sits on. And I've had people have total remission from MS. And I have to say, Paul, I don't claim to cure people. I educate people on what actions they might take to heal themselves. Because really, it's the grace of God and the grace of these wonderful natural remedies that our planet is blessed with. And, you know, people sometimes say, I want to pay you more, or you cured me of cancer. I said, no, I didn't. No. You're the ones that had to go home and, you know, start eating seaweed and give up the sugar and, you know, change your diet and eat, you know, weird quinoa, things that maybe were new to you. So I'm really just a conduit to help bring this ancient wisdom to people. And, you know, it's really beautiful because all of these steps are good for loving yourself. And very often, it's true, people often get a diagnosis and they feel hopeless, that there's nothing they can do. And we know that the kind of fats that people eat can affect their brain. In Asian medicine, we say that the kidneys, the water element, has a lot to do with our mental state. We don't really hear that in Western medicine. So even doing things like eating black-colored foods, like black chia seeds are a wonderful food, black rice, black beans, black olives, black seaweed. And it's not that they're black, it's that the black color means lots of minerals, and our brain, you know, loves minerals like magnesium and sulfur, and so it's just another way of looking at it. And, you know, I'm just here. I've never done anything else with my life really except study natural medicine and the healing properties of plants. My grandmother did this. She was a folk healer, and even as a little kid I said, wow, I like that. This is like something out of a fairy tale, this tradition of helping people with natural remedies. And so, you know, Parkinson's disease, I've been working a lot with that lately. You know, and I might tap into, there's an herb like called skullcap, Scutellaria latifolia, magnesium. So there are things we can do. And I will say, Paul, that natural medicine is for people that are motivated, that want to take action. A lot of people are going to say, my insurance pays for drugs and surgery, that's all I'm willing to do. But there are some people who are saying, no, I am willing to eat differently, or try some herbs, or visit the natural food store, or find an herbalist who can help me sort through this list of things that they might do. And how empowering it is to say, I'm going to give this a try.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be doing this, you know, 50, 60 years later. I'm 71, so I think that this really works. And unfortunately, Paul, you know, a lot of people, so many people have suffered from trauma, and that can affect people. We need to look at, we are being bombarded with toxins in our air, in our water, in our food, toxic media, fear. So
radio frequencies. I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, here we are sitting in front of it, but this is an opportunity to learn what can you do. And I'm a champion of the weeds. I actually think that eating things like dandelions, we shouldn't be spraying them, we should be eating them. Dandelions are an amazing plant, one of the top 5 most nutritious vegetables on the planet.
Yes.
And they're here for a reason, and if we want to adapt to all of these adversities out there, I think that that is probably a stellar plant that could really help us.
Yes,
eating the leaves, taking tea of the root, absolutely.
Yeah, the more I find out about dandelion, the more impressed I am. I just finished a tincture of mullein a couple of days ago, and you know, I have a lot of friends that smoke, and, you know, people who want, you know, clearing their lungs, and it's so exciting, you know, to go and take it and finish it and pour it into the eyedropper bottles and just have it ready for someone, you know. And it's exciting to know that there's other options, you know, because you watch commercials on TV and you see a drug come up and they talk about the drug for about 5 seconds and then 10-15 seconds about side effects. And it's like, how can you call this an effective drug when you have a chance of getting lymphoma, or you have a chance of getting tuberculosis or other cancers? And by the way, I want to make a disclaimer before I forget. We are not here to treat, cure, or diagnose any condition, illness of any kind. So just want to make sure we say that.
Absolutely, Paul. And the other thing we see advertised on an hour of TV, junk food and drugs. Eat this junk food, you'll need to take these drugs. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Of course, when I was growing up, in the 50s and 60s, it was, smoke these cigarettes. There's a brand that doctors recommend.
Yes.
And alcohol. So they pushed back on that a little bit, but now it's junk food and drugs. So we're going to have to, do our own research, and that's why it's so important to support the works, because it's out there. There's really no excuse. The information is out there. If you're motivated, there's things you can do. Maybe you're concerned about an elderly loved one. You notice that their memory is starting to slip. There's like lots in here about enhancing brain health, memory, all kinds of things you can do that many of them don't even involve taking anything. It might be smelling something, or
Yes.
learning about feng shui, or using your non-dominant hand on occasion, or walking to work or driving to work a different way so you see new things and think new thoughts. What do you choose to read? So there's so many lifestyle techniques. That's a big part of it for me. It's not just swallow the pill, whether it be pharmaceutical or an herbal pill or a vitamin. It's the lifestyle things that can go along with it that are going to enhance your chances of diminishing an ailment, or certainly even letting go of it altogether.
Yes. One of the things that I mean, there's so many things that I really appreciated about the book, but you talked in depth about cannabinoid receptors in our bodies. And you mentioned cannabis several times in the book for several different ailments and conditions, and people who know me know I'm a marijuana. I'm not ashamed of it. I've been very successful in my life. I've been happy. I've been content, and I discovered at a very young age that cannabis worked very well with my body and my mind and my spirit, and it was very conducive to my mental health. And and I know before any medical book before 1920 will have copious amounts of remedies that included hemp, cannabis, THC, CBD. In some form, they were all mainstream in medicine. And the powers that be have gone after it and called it a narcotic, and they've demonized it in so many ways, because I think it has so many potential health benefits and curative benefits beyond what we know.
Well, cannabis is probably, Carl Sagan believed that it was the oldest cultivated plant on the face of the earth. Cannabis sativa means with a long history of cultivation, and
Wow.
whether someone finds benefit in smoking cannabis or not, because for some people it just doesn't work, it makes them anxious and paranoid. We could look at that we actually have an endocannabinoid system in our bodies. Our bodies are designed to receive, every system in our body has evolved along with this plant. And there's many ways to use it that are not psychoactive. You mentioned CBD, but
Yes.
I wrote a hemp cookbook years ago. The seeds are a wonderful source of protein. The
Fiber.
leaves can be juiced. I think that that's a great way to combat a lot of these very serious health conditions, to juice the leaves. And of course we can make food and fiber and fabric and all these things. It aerates the soil. It can choke out other plants like poison ivy. So if I were going to another planet and they said you can only bring 3 herbs with you, for me it would be dandelion, nettles, and cannabis, because it grows really fast. It could save many of our environmental concerns. We could be making fuel for automobiles and airplanes. We could be making paper. We could be making fabric. Cotton is one of the most heavily pesticided crops on the face of the earth, whereas cannabis grown outside really can grow without pesticides.
Yeah, it's very hardy, it's very water resistant.
I spin for it. So whether you smoke it or not or eat it, but again, it has anti-inflammatory properties. It can help with pain relief, and there's many ways to use it. It has actually been found to help with nausea and MS, even organ transplant rejection. And so now we're in an era where we are able to study it again, although some of us never did stop studying it. And again, I realize that it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but there may be some way that it could be used that have health benefits. So, you know, for a good night's sleep, you could try CBD, or you could take some addictive drug. But I think it's also good to look at why can't you sleep? Maybe there's some lifestyle things you could do, like take a lavender bath, get ready for the next day the night before. So we don't want to only use that. But I do encourage right use of cannabis. I like to call it praise and blaze. It can be really good for like brainstorming. And yeah, but again, I think a lot of people have paranoia about it, and it might be that it's safe set and setting. But again, there's ways of using it that are not going to alter your consciousness,
Absolutely.
but like nervous system.
Absolutely. You know, I keep alcohol, growing alcohol, and I put the stems of the plants that I grow in it, and I save them and I give them away as gifts because it's a wonderful ointment for joint pain, you know, and so it has so many purposes and uses. And but I just wanted to toss that out there.
Wait, I stand for it. It's really very important plant.
Yes.
We should, and I ideally think it should be grown outdoors eventually, because the seeds, it's so important for aerating the soil and enriching the soil. So no wonder it became illegal. It really would compete with so many pharmaceutical drugs.
Oh, not only that, the textile industry, the alcohol industry, you know, fabrics and cotton, textile, lumber, paper. I mean, there were so many reasons for it to be a threat to corporate America, and so, but there's a resurgence happening, and it's really exciting to see, because I think there are a lot of medicinal properties and values within that. And I want to take a quick moment, guys. If you're just joining us, you are watching KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. This is the Weekend Boost, and I am your host, Paul Lane. Today we're talking to author Brigitte Mars. She wrote the book Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health, Holistic Methods and Techniques for a Happy, Healthy Mind. And I mean, I don't care if you're dealing with insomnia, or if you're dealing with anger issues, or for trauma or grief. Every single topic you could think of is in this book. I'm just going to read a couple of these chapter headings if I can. So I mean, you're not going to believe this. I mean, stress, anxiety, fear, anger, low mood, and depression. Oh yeah, we see those. Those are expected. But then we go into addiction, eating disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, stroke and brain injury. Even ADHD is spoken about in this book. But it goes on and it gets better. Man, we talk about insomnia and sleep disorders, fatigue, chronic pain, grief, trauma, enhancing cognition and memory. Guys, you would not believe how many things that are listed in this book to help your mental cognition, your memory, whether it's your short-term or long-term memory, cultivating joy and happiness. Gosh, you have no idea what a plethora of available herbs there are for you, or essential oils or crystals or whatever the case may be available that are talked about in this book. I love how you talked about meditation in the book and how you simplified it in a way that was very, you know, someone could take and really chew up and digest it, and you know, so that was really very exciting to see.
Thank you so much, Paul. So, you know, I cast my net out wide, and it's like, for every ailment, if people would just pick out 3 or 4 things that they choose to do, yeah, I think I'll try that, and you know, maybe do a few of them, and you're going to see results.
Yes.
And you might find other things improving your health. Your digestion gets better. And you know, one thing that I didn't know 20 years ago is that a lot of our neurotransmitters, like serotonin, are made in our gut microbiome.
Yes.
So if we have poor digestion, if we're eating things that are, you know, constantly irritating our digestive system, that could be affecting our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And we do know that allergies can create inflammation in the body. We often think of like inflammation in the joints or the sinuses, but also brain inflammation can occur if we're eating things that we're allergic to. Or I did write an entire book called Addiction Free Naturally,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the 18 books that I've written. But I just want to say that maybe we need to address that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be like, 8 cups of coffee's probably not helping your insomnia or high sugar content. Not only does it affect your teeth and your bones, but it can also affect your state of anxiety. And Paul, I did want to mention, because we mentioned cannabis, that there's a new place in Denver called the Plant Magic Cafe, and I'm going to be giving a talk there on 4/20. It's in Denver, called the Out on a Limb, Cannabis is the Tree of Life.
Oh.
So I'm going to be talking about all the spiritual and religious traditions of cannabis from all world religions. So on 4/20, check out the Plant Magic Cafe. Maybe some of you will come and meet me there.
Yes. Hey, Brigitte, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and find out more about your books, where would they go?
Well, Brigitte Mars, you just have to spell it right, Brigitte, Mars, like the planet. That is my website, and I have lots of articles there. I have a lot of YouTubes, and I'm big on TikTok. I hope they don't take it away. I love TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find me, and I do have a private practice, and I do, help people sort out some of their mental and physical ailments. So, for example, you might read this book and say, wow, there's like 30 things I can do. Can you help me narrow it down so that I can find a program? How many milligrams of magnesium, what kind of magnesium do I need?
Mm-hmm.
So I can help people kind of sort things out and individualize it. So you can go to my website and email me from there. I'm also BrigitteMars@gmail.com. You just have to spell it right, because my mom is French Canadian, so I learned to speak French before English, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of ways to spell that name.
Very
Thank
cool.
you, Paul.
Very cool. You didn't talk a lot about it in this book, but we're seeing a big surge in psychedelic medicine on the medical front. I mean, we just had psilocybin mushrooms were made. Now they're not legal, but they're not illegal, and I don't know exactly how that works. But
Criminalized.
yes,
Yeah, decriminalized.
Decriminalized. That's the word I was looking for. And I know people who have had therapies with different kinds of psychedelics, and again, I'm not ashamed to say that I have experienced the benefit with that. I wanted to share a quick story. I mentioned it on Monday. I was shoveling snow, and I didn't even have a half a shovel full of snow, and I went to throw it, and I felt something pop all the way from my left heel to my right shoulder, and it felt like I was hit with a bat, and I couldn't even lift my foot. And I took, every 8 hours I took a capsule of psilocybin, 1 gram, and by the 4th capsule, my pain was 90% improved. And I've had this happen to me, not that severe, but I've had it happen where I was out for weeks. And I didn't do anything unusual. I mean, I have just some infrared light, but I was so impressed with how quickly my back recovered from that, which would have, I think, otherwise been really severe. So there's so many benefits to the psilocybin mushroom. Not even talking about all of the the reishi and the cordyceps and all the other mushrooms, but I don't know if it creates neural pathways or if it heals broken nerves or what it does, but it definitely had some effect on me.
Well, lion's mane mushroom I want to mention, which is really good for neuroregenesis, like rebuilding the nervous system. And psychedelic therapy, it's not for everybody, but it's something. Sometimes I like to joke, Paul, the hippies were right all along.
Yes,
the hippies were talking about organic gardening and herbal medicine and natural childbirth, like 60 years ago. But psychedelic therapy, and I'm not talking about taking these things and going to a concert or
No.
a big party or festival, that's not going to give you a deep personal experience. So, I do have a little YouTube out. It's on my website. It's called Psychedelic Ceremony. So creating safe set and setting, either being, with a trusted guide or a small group of trusted friends, like having the setting all laid out, the music, preferably music without a lot of words, art supplies, healthy snacks, and an intention is really, really important. Like, why are you doing
yes.
this? So I do certainly work with people who say, I want to let go of my depression, or I have trauma. And, very often people say, wow, I've been carrying that around for years, and I realize it's not happening now. I'm ready to let go of it. And of course, the integration is really important too. You don't want to just take what I call a sacred plant medicine and expect that to fix all your problems. Usually I give people homework ideas like, I want you to go make a list of 100 things you love about yourself, or I want you to eat a salad every day, or eat all the colors of the rainbow, or walk more, or put your bare feet on the ground, or switch from this drug to maybe chamomile tea or something like that. So I do think that psychedelic therapy is really valid. In the the late 1960s, I was living with Rosemary Leary, the wife of Timothy Leary.
Really?
And yes, and she was a great teacher for me, and she really enforced the idea that we're going to create safe set and setting and make this like a ceremony with an intention and a small group or one-on-one with a guide. And so she was a great teacher for me, and I'm really grateful for that experience, because I learned at a really early age that Tim Leary talked about whatever you imprint on, whatever you take in during the ceremony has the potential to go really deep. So for example, you talked about my intention is to help heal my back pain or my misalignment. You really can go really deep and get some cosmic downloads.
Wow.
If you're in a set and setting. And so I'm certainly a believer. And again, I don't think it's appropriate for everybody, but I was at the MAPS conference in Denver.
Oh, you were?
And yes, I helped a friend with her booth, and my partner and I, we did a chakra activation at the Naropa booth. I teach herbal medicine at Naropa, so we got to do a little experiential dance thing with color and yoga and sound and light. And so anyways, yes. I think that is another avenue that is being looked at, and of course psychedelic therapy is being researched at New York University, Johns Hopkins, University of Berkeley. So again, I think it's important for people to realize that this is very powerful medicine, and I think people do a lot of crazy things. I saw something on Facebook, what are good movies to watch when you're tripping? And first of all, I don't think you should be watching the movie in your mind. But so many people wrote down The Wall by Pink Floyd, and I thought, you've got to be kidding. That movie is like so scary.
Overstimulating.
Maybe Fantasia 1, something like that. But no, don't watch The Wall. So what you imprint on, it could be detrimental. You want to protect your mental well-being and not put toxic junk in there while you're so open and receptive. It should be an opportunity for healing, not damaging yourself.
Yeah. When I was 14 years old, I discovered the book Carlos Castaneda, A Yaqui Way of Learning. And I was at that time able to find drugs, anything I needed really. And I found mescaline. And all my friends would take it and get high, and I would be out by myself, getting an experience of growth and wisdom. And I felt so fortunate that I was able to see from that perspective that so many of my friends were not able to see, and I just felt like, I guess looking back, I feel like, wow, maybe I was ahead of my time, or, it was just really exciting to understand that there was more to even this consciousness or this realm of reality that I'm in. And I'm going off on a rabbit trail, forgive me, but it was a really learning experience for me.
And those books, the Carlos Castaneda books, he did talk about some dangerous herbs that I probably wouldn't dabble with, like datura and all that. But we've had so many years of just saying no.
Yeah.
And I want to be really clear. that I don't think it's just say yes all the time. I think we need some kind of education, like just say how. And that's something I try to talk about, like if you're going to use these medicines, having an intention, safe set and setting, having some, maybe activities like art supplies or healthy snacks or, beautiful music that's conducive, because when you're in that open, sensitive state, you might really pick up on, the ego-ness or the, that's coming through with people. I went to an all-girls boarding school, and for some reason, good reason, it was the 60s, and so if someone were having a difficult experience, they would come to my room and like, please go help, Sally, she's taking too much, and right away I would like, change the music. Like, no, we're not going to listen to hard-heading rock and roll. We're gonna sing row, row, row your boat, and like, do a prayer and turn the lights down and smell a rose, something like that.
You do guided experiences with some psychedelics, and I really appreciate that, because I think more and more we're going to see that as a norm in the very near future. What would someone experience if they were to go on a guided experience with you? What would they expect?
Well, I want to make it clear that I'm not the grower or purveyor or producer of such products, but I have for over 50 years sat with people who wanted to do a deep journey. So what they generally do is they come in, usually we have a meeting first aid and see if it's appropriate for them. It's important to find out if they're on any contraindicated medications, because SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, could inhibit the effects of the medicine. I think it's important to talk about experience and all that. But providing a safe space, so you could have like this elderly grandmother person sitting by you, so when they come for a session, there's prayer, there's a stating of what your intention is, and then when it starts to come on, it's time to lay down, and they lay on a mat that's filled with 4 different types of crystals, amethyst, obsidian, and it's a warm mat that gives you this infrared heat that's really nourishing to your core. And basically, I play beautiful music where they go really, really deep, and I'm there to hold their hand or hand them tissues, and then help them integrate. So I might be taking notes, I stay with them the whole time, and then I might make suggestions about, these are some herbs or flower essences or lifestyle things you might want to do so that you can help overcome your depression or your anxiety or your fear or your grief. But it's not for everybody, and sometimes people remember some sort of trauma, but rather than like, oh my gosh, it's like you've got this like grandmother person who's there to help you breathe through it and clear it. I might smudge them with some essential oils or some burning artemisia or palo santo or something like that. But definitely prayer and being in a safe place, not trying to navigate a rock concert where you're trying to like find your friends and hope
you're stressed out. You have external.
Yeah, and you don't leave and then someone comes to pick you up. You're not going to drive home, and then ideally you'd have the next day off to journal, dream, rest, talk about the experience, write about it. And I think that can be really profound. And I don't, as a matter of fact, a lot of people find that that's really helpful in letting go of some of their addictions and habitual behaviors. I think that people really need that aha message of like, wow, I am a child of the divine, and I do belong, and I'm going to utilize every tool that I know of. Again, food, herbs, lifestyle practices to give people some ideas. It's not just about take a substance. It's like, what are you going to do? And, the idea of neuroplasticity, that you still have time after the journey to make changes in your life. It's a really good time to get determined about like, no, I want to give up this bad habit. I want to eat healthier. I want to clean up my mess. I want to improve my relationships. So I'm going to give you a bunch of grandmotherly advice on things that you might do that are, really holistic and easy to put into practice, because I think that that's a real valid therapy. And again, I'm not just making this up. This has been known for thousands of years.
Yes.
We also know, Paul, that the use of psychedelics is very ancient.
Yes.
It's coming out. The Eleusinian mysteries that were practiced in ancient Greece, that many of the people that we read in high school and college, Socrates, Sophocles, Cicero, Plato, they were all partakers in these ancient mysteries where they ate or they drank a beverage called kykeon that was a psychedelic beverage. And that gave them the idea, and then they came back and wrote these books about a different view on reality and
Consciousness,
it kind
yes.
of, no wonder they made Socrates off himself. They didn't want people thinking outside the box.
Wow. Yeah. Why do you think that worries or frightens people when someone has profound thoughts? Why is that so threatening?
Well, question authority is something that, Dr. Leary was popular for saying, question authority. And so, one of the crimes for selling LSD in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't that you're selling drugs, it was conspiracy to overthrow the government.
Wow.
Because people would take substances and decide, why do I want to go kill people in Vietnam? Like, what have they ever done to me?
Exactly.
So it made people want to decide or question. And again, one experience that I had is it even makes you see how the earth is suffering. You take a walk in the city and you see, wow, the pollution and the amount of cars and every little patch of ground where maybe there were some edible plants has become dog poop park, and the cement, no wonder the earth is, having upheaval, like, oh, let's just get this cement. You start seeing how the earth is really a viable, kind of a breathing entity. I don't know what you call it.
Almost a living being, yeah.
So it wakes people up to things that maybe we question, like, wow, like junk food's really junky. And so you start questioning things, and that might really challenge the cultural norm.
Wow.
And you start thinking, wow. And that maybe makes people think for themselves, and that could be a threat to what's going on in the world. But again, I'm not trying to take down the empire. I think we could look at it and say, we can all do something, and whether it's that we start using water more wisely, or we start planting gardens, or we start supporting the organic farmers, or that we start paying attention to our feng shui and eating more healthfully. These are simple things, and again, you start eating more healthfully and you're supporting farmers that are growing without pesticides and
Certainly.
Small local farms. Maybe you go to the farmer's market, maybe you grow a garden and you use less gas, maybe you let the dandelions flourish and you don't spray pesticides. So whatever it takes for us to take better care of the earth, and no wonder people are so sick, both physically and mentally, because our planet is really sick.
Wow. There's a correlation there. Wow. I have to share this testimony. When I first met my wife, my now wife, I had a lot of insecurity. I mean, I was really insecure with myself in my relationship. I was jealous as crazy, man. I mean, really bad. And I had a shaman come on my show, and she suggested some medicine for me because I was forthright about it. I was ashamed of it, but I'm not going to deny it, And so she said, I'm gonna prescribe you some medicine, And so she sent me some medicine, and I took it. It was psychedelics, and I did my intention statement before I did it, and I am not kidding you, Brigitte. It changed me fundamentally. I mean, it was beyond medicine for me. I mean, I don't think any psychiatrist could have helped me to overcome that, or even understand that self-doubt that I was harboring. And so, it was very curative for me in my case. So I'm a big proponent of it.
That's so wonderful, and it's almost like you got to get this realization, this aha moment, and to realize like jealousy can poison a good relationship.
Truly.
Like, is it worth poisoning a good relationship over something that may or may not happen? But in any case, why not make this relationship awesome?
Yes, and I got to tell you that since that time, my relationship has flourished, and it's become more reciprocal, and it's been just a an amazing transformation in my self awareness or my self peace of mind. I don't know how to describe it, but it's been exponential, because both of us have really come about and said, you know what, this is worth keeping, worth working for, you know. And so I had a great experience, and that was what I had to say.
I'm so glad. I mean, I do think it could be a really helpful thing for, you know, couples to do this, you know, even together once a year, creating safe sentence ceremony. So again, you know, I'm not saying don't do therapy. I'm not saying look at your stuff, and
Yes.
But there's help out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to get with the program. I'm a big believer in having a day planner and writing down what your goals are and what you want to bring into your life, and letting go of what no longer serves you. And it's a little bit of work, but it's so joyful, and it makes life so worth living.
No kidding. It really does. You know, and I really am at a point where I want a continual path of growth. I want a path of development of myself. I read Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, and I understood this consciousness that's happening and this development within, and the importance of it. And not only that, but the importance of spreading that information. And so, you know, as I read your book, it was reminiscent of all of the wonderful things that Eckhart Tolle shared that helped me to I mean, when I came upon it, I was my first wife was dying of cancer, and so I was destitute, and I mean, I wish I would have had something like this at that time. But his book really gave me the remedies that were applicable and, you know, practical, and things that I was able to address. But forgive me, don't mind me, I get off on these rabbit trails. Brigitte, it's almost over. This has been, I mean, you are just such an exciting person to talk to, and your information is not only valuable, but it's something that needs to be shared and spread with people. And you know, I will definitely be sharing and talking to, you know, to my friends and family about your book and the multiple benefits, and everyone could really, I mean, if you just have this book as a desk reference, and you have a bout with insomnia, or if you find yourself dealing with anger, I mean, there's so many topics in here that are relevant and useful and applicable and very easy to use in your own life. And so, Brigitte, I have a slogan on my show when I say everybody's looking for a hero. If you can't find one, be one. And you have exemplified that model in this book, and you know, just your work with community and with people and growth and development. And I'm just so humbly grateful to have you as a guest on the show.
I'm so honored, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, you have been watching the Weekend Boost on KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. I'm looking at my clock, and I still got a couple of minutes. So, in closing, is there anything that you would like to share before we end this discussion?
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me on. And I guess I just want to really reiterate that there are things we can do, and it's very often very simple, that we can choose what we eat. Every day we make choices, and rather than feeling disempowered, there's information out there that can help you. But a couple of things I always like to say when I have the mic is the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now. Think about planting more fruit trees. I also just want to say we need to respect our earth a lot more. And another slogan I like is, if you have water to throw away, throw it on a plant. There's so many people on the planet. We're going to have to find ways to coexist and respect the earth, and we know it's suffering. And so, you know, learn to grow something and keep working on yourself. And, you know, tune in, support the arts and the literature and the podcasts that are making a positive difference.
Yes.
Because where you put your mind, you know, junk food for the mind is junk food for the soul.
Mm-hmm. And I've always said, if you're green, you're growing, and when you're ripe, you're rotten. So, you know, I encourage people, get a book, read a book, go watch a documentary, find out how you can develop, grow, improve yourself, improve those around you, improve the lives of your children, your parents, yourself, your friends, and your family. And you know what? You have a job and responsibility to make the world a better place. I believe that's my purpose in this life. And you know, getting to talk to people like you just inspires me and makes me really dig my heels in and make me want to really be the person that really improves this world. Guys,
you are making a difference. Thank you, Paul.
thank you so much. Thank you. I mean it. Thank you. We have Mr. International coming up, Mr. Paul Chavez, one of the anchors in Denver's community, and you know, just stay tuned because Paul will be coming on. He'll be bringing you deep cuts. And guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. We will be talking to, I believe, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to make any announcements. But we have a great guest coming up in 2 weeks. Brigitte, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday.